So my opponent stated that the brain is basically too young, is kind of an old school kind of news. And I actually have research that does state that it's not just old school news, it's science, that our brains are still developing and we're still adolescent between the ages of 18 to about like 24. And according to the Washington accident books, the brain does not stop developing until the early 20s, and alcohol can hamper development, especially impacting memory, judgment, and learning capabilities. So this law is helping growing brains by allowing them to mature before alcohol is consumed. Also, according to the NIAAA publications, one brain area that seems to be particularly affected by adolescent alcohol consumption is the hippocampus, which plays a role in numerous cognitive functions, including learning and memory, again. In fact, preliminary studies in humans have found that alcohol abuse during adolescence may be associated with a reduction in the size of the hippocampus. So we're basically affecting the brain by drinking at younger ages, and that does lead to drinking longer and more when you grow. And also, according to the NIAAA, various avenues of research have demonstrated that adolescence is a unique stage of brain development, which is particularly sensitive to the disrupting effects of alcohol. Furthermore, alcohol exposure during adolescence not only has an immediate impact on brain function, it also may lead to consequences for various brain functions that last even into adulthood. He also stated that cigarettes cause more deaths than alcohol, but that's irrelevant to anything that we're even discussing right now, because we're talking about lowering the drinking age, and whether we're saving lives of people who smoke cigarettes or saving lives of people who drink doesn't really matter. And then we do have evidence, in fact, on the European states, whereas my opponent stated that we have no evidence. We found that from the Legal Drinking Age Choose Responsibility website, recent research published by the World Health Organization found that while 15 and 16-year-old teens in many European states are drinking, hold on. Okay, so while the teenagers are drinking under the age of 18, they have more drinking occasions per month. They also have fewer intoxication occasions than their American counterparts. For example, in Southern European nations, ratios of all drinking occasions to intoxication occasions were quite low, roughly 1 in 10, while in the U.S., almost half of all drinking occasions resulted in intoxication, meaning young Americans drink to get drunk, which, yeah. And then, according to the Christian Science Monitor, it's actually a myth that the European countries have fewer youths drinking and with more problems. Compared to the American youth, binge drinking rates among young people are higher in every European country except Turkey. Intoxication rates are higher in most countries. In Britain, Denmark, and Ireland, they're more than twice the U.S. level. Intoxication and binge drinking are directly linked to higher levels of alcohol-related problems such as drinking and driving. My opponent also stated that there's no science that says that it does save lives, but in fact, there's tons of things all over the internet and books that you can find that are scientific research of people, such as this scientist named Gruska and his colleagues. They were observing the young people born in the U.S. that allowed drinking under 21, and they noticed that they had higher rates of drug and alcohol problems, and other previous research had found that drunk driving accidents, homicides, and suicides spiked in states with lower drinking ages during the time those laws were in effect. He says, and I quote, "We saw drinking age changes as a natural experiment to see what happens to young people who have easy access to alcohol compared to those who access it restrictedly." The researchers looked at data from 1990 to 2004 in the U.S. multiple cause of death files and the U.S. Census and American Community Survey, and found that there were more than 200,000 suicides and 30,000 homicides among people who turned 18 between 1967 and 1989, the years during which legal drinking age was still moving. That is why the National Minimum Drinking Age Act was passed in 1984, setting the legal age at 21 for all states. Researchers found that the risks of suicide and homicide remained higher into adulthood for younger people living in states that had lowered their drinking age. Based on their data, the researchers estimated that the national drinking age of 21 prevented 600 homicides and 600 suicides per year. Another problem I'd like to bring up is the fact that drinking does also cause obesity, and that is also one of the problems we have here in the United States. And allowing someone to drink under the age of 21, or allowing the adolescents to start drinking at an age of 18 wouldn't help the fact that we're having an obesity problem. It would, in fact, make it worse, and we don't want to have two problems going on at the same time.